everyone. I'm Pip from Seymour Digital Media. You're listening to KnowHow Marketing Lab podcast. This podcast brings together different experts in marketing from our Facebook group, Cyberpunk Geeks Marketing Mixer. Each week we get on here and we talk about something search marketing like Google Ads or SEO, social media marketing from Facebook to TikTok, or website marketing. If you're a marketer or aspiring marketer, a business owner or entrepreneur, this podcast is for you. We're going to share the best SEO, search, social, and website strategies. We share tips and hacks, Google Ads strategies, what's going on in the current market. Each week we discuss something exciting and awesome in marketing.
And we are live, it looks like. And again, it is that time of the month where we are going to be talking about this month in the world of marketing. Unfortunately, Pip and Rena are out today, so it's just going to be the boys holding down the fort while we're doing this. And of course, yeah, exactly. Whoop. And of course, my name is Phelan with Seymour Digital Media.
And I'm Greg with Original 72 Creative.
Okay, awesome. Do we want to start? Where do we want to start?
We can skip all over the place.
Yeah,
Let's just go crazy today.
Yeah, for sure. I am going to. Why don't you get started talking about the WordPress stuff, and I'm going to go share this into the group.
Yeah, sure. One thing that has just come in the last week was WordCamp Asia was just on. I think it was just end of last week, or was it at the beginning of this week? I can't remember. Anyways, I didn't catch it live, but I caught the streams on YouTube after the fact, and there's been a couple. Or the one thing that's come out of WordCamp Asia that people are, at least I saw an article about, which maybe is a little bit concerning, maybe it's not, but one of the things is that someone posed a question to Matt Mullenweg of where WordPress was going in the next years. And he didn't really have an answer. So now people are like feeling there's no direction to WordPress and nothing will be new or change. There's no direction for the next 5 years, which I don't think is completely the case. Obviously they're working on things, but maybe he got surprised with that question because they've been so consumed and focused on their implementation of the block builder, Gutenberg, and all of the phases of getting WordPress done with that. Obviously, they've had a rollout and huge development in that process, which has been their main focus for so long that I think because they've been so consumed with that project and all of its phases, is that they've not really identified or potentially don't have identified like the next big development thing for WordPress. So I think it maybe seems there's not much or no direction for it, but I think there probably is, and he might have just been surprised by that question.
Yeah, I'll give it. I think I talked about this when we were prepping this. Matt Mullenweg is in an unenviable position because he's stuck with a tech stack that's 20 odd years old, and he's having to maintain that and also look to the future and try to map it out. And because he has to make changes that just basically don't break as few websites as possible. And I feel like I also feel like WordPress is generally, other than the block builder, is generally, to my mind, always been more reactive to things that are going on in the WordPress or website development in general, and new stuff that comes online, and that they're like taking bits and bobs as they become stable and like implementing those. So I feel like I wouldn't look to WordPress themselves to be the drivers of the big changes. I feel like big changes are going to happen elsewhere, and then they're going to go, oh, we can actually fit that in here, and then implement it that way. Like how there's the headless CMS was not their development, but they did take that because that made sense to them as a new tool that they could use. So I feel like I wouldn't look to WordPress for guidance. They're generally, I feel like, a more reactive organization to events that are going on around them because there's a lot of website development. And also like a 5-year plan seems like insane to me because like website development stuff is changing so rapidly all the time that 5 years would be way too long to plan out. There's going to be so much that happens in the course of 1 year, let alone 5.
I know from past big word camps, like not long, maybe even the last ones, a couple of things that had come out of that were things like being able to import or export anything from any system. So integrations into all systems where you want to come to WordPress, there will be a path to migrate to. If you want to leave WordPress and go somewhere else, there will be some type of path to export and go to that, like almost a universal import export option to go wherever you want. That's a big thing because people are constantly choosing what would be right for them and their business, and having a path that is easier than it is now to be able to migrate a site from one platform to another platform would be amazing. I know I'm constantly battling, how do I get this client's data from this system into their new WordPress site that we're doing, right? It's
Yeah,
a challenge.
for
So it's not already, there are not things identified, but I don't think there's anything to worry about that WordPress has no direction.
Yeah, yeah. I'm less concerned about Press not having a plan versus, I don't know, like some of Apple not having a plan for the next 5 years. And so you have infinite money and you have no plan with infinite money. Like that would be more concerning to me, where their organization's known for being like the cutting edge, whereas they're just generally not known for that. That's not their reputation. So like, why would you impose that on them?
Yeah. Another WordPress item we can jump over quickly is a fallout between the relationship between Mullenweg and Yoast, the Yoast plugin developer.
I was wondering if you're going to tackle the name.
Yeah, I guess he had come out with comments about there being a need for like leadership change at the top or at the head of WordPress, which Mullenweg felt backstabbed from him about these comments, and so they're on the outs. Besides that, one of the big things as a result of the legal battles between what's the WordPress engine and Matt Mullenweg and WordPress, there's now a class action suit that was filed by people who use WP Engine being affected. So we'll be interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'd say that I mean, it's all going to get settled and probably out of court, and we're probably not going to find out any of the details, and it's probably just all going to be swept under the rug and forgotten about, really. I suspect in about 2 years' time, we'll be like, got settled, and then we're not going to hear anything more about it than that, to my suspicion.
And then lastly, for WordPress, WooCommerce rebranded. Nothing big, but they just updated their look. So recent updates, if you're running WooCommerce as your e-com store, the latest update, you'll probably notice a little bit of a rebrand, new logos and things like that. Their site's changed, but that happened this month as well.
Yeah, where it's not like when what did they try to change themselves to Woo or whatever, some stupid name like that.
Yeah, they wanted to be known as Woo, which they are anyways, but they didn't need to change the domain to woo.com. That caused them a ton of pain with people finding them and stuff like that.
So stupid. WooCommerce, that's a name that I can get my head around of. What does it do? It handles commerce. Like, it's WordPress commerce. Like, that does exactly what you need the brand name to do. So I don't know why they do this, but yeah. That's good to hear. And also, so we got like Facebook is now going to be deleting your live videos after 30 days. They do have a tool, however, that you can download it or I think save it in some other to like your videos tab, something like that. But they will be deleting them. So that's one thing to keep your eyes out. I'm going to guess that I get a copy of this video anyway, so I'm not super stressed about that part. But yeah, it's just definitely something that's interesting that
But it's the type of thing where the live, so now you go live on Facebook and then it'll stay there for the 30 days or whatever, and then come down. If you actually want it to stay on your Facebook, you'll have to download it and then like actual
Yeah.
post of it.
Which is, I don't get it myself of why they're doing this part, because it's not really, if they're trying to save money on server space, there's probably some better options to do. Like metaverse stuff is going to take up way more bandwidth than anything for the live videos, because it's just not as big a live video platform as it is
Yeah.
like YouTube or Twitch. Or I guess Twitch, really, because YouTube backed away from live video. And there's also the Google Business Profile. There's a review outage. It supposedly is over. If you do know the name of the person who left you the review and it still isn't back up, you can reach out to Google Business Profile support. And if you could give them the name of the person, then you have a chance of them actually going and salvaging it for you. But that's a big one that glitched out. We lost a few, nothing too serious. They came back, so I'm not too mussed over it. But it was definitely...
Did they ever mention what caused this at all, or?
So I don't know. With Google, it's so hard because there's a quote they have internally for any of their Google systems. If there's a 1 in a billion chance, that happens every day for Google, they get all kinds of just weird stuff. And reviews, honestly, it's probably one of the worst maintained. The barrier to make sure that they're good reviews is really good. But we've lost so many over the years that just randomly you wake up and they're just gone. And when you've got like 60 plus, 70 plus reviews, you're not going to remember every person's name that's on the list. And so it's really difficult to keep.
Right. No, come to think of it now, I remember talking to a customer, and they had a 4.9 rating on Google, got 1 4-star review, and then a couple of additional 5-star reviews, but they went down to a 4.8 overall because of getting 1 recent. And we're talking like over 300 reviews. So 1 4-star should not bump them down from 4.9 down to 4.8 when the majority of them are like 5-star reviews. So now I'm thinking they must have also been affected by this, where multiple reviews probably were removed, which would make more sense why all of a sudden their overall rating went down a point, because they got 1 new 4-star review.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Or the other option that comes to mind that I'm thinking about is like the way they programmed it, that if it does get one that's lower than when they do the tabulations, they round down. I wonder if there's something like that, because you don't know how they're calculated on the back end to do that round up or round down. So I just wonder if there's some sort of like weird programming glitch on the back end, and it just, it's close enough, let's just round it down. And so it's so hard to say with these ones. And they obviously don't tell you anything, because why would you want to know anything about that?
And because they don't know.
Yeah. And there's also like the thing of they don't want to reveal too much about the systems, because then people who are hacking those systems still get extra reviews if they're not supposed to. You don't want to reveal too much about how the sausage is made, because then it gives people a chance to do bad things. Because I get, but it's still frustrating to have. It's an average person where I'm just like, I would like to know a little bit more about this, please. And of course, you'd get nothing. YouTube also has been doing a lot so that you can now boost your shorts. I'm going to guess this is within the app itself. So it's because there's also a new tab called promotions that's in there as well. So I don't know if the way it was worded in the article that I read about it is that it was in app, and say I get a short, I'm just like, oh, I really want to blow this one up. You can pay a couple extra dollars right there. We do have a promotions tab now. You do need a Google Ads account to be connected with it, because you obviously have to pay for it somehow. But it does like audience targeting and a bunch of other stuff. We've used it for a client to get new subscribers, and it worked exceedingly well. They had like 300% increase in subscribers or something crazy like that. So it is working overall. So that's more things to look out for, because I know Google Ads is trying to get more out of the video space. Their YouTube. And so demand gen has been really big. So demand gen is their response to the fact that Performance Max really sucks for getting leads. And so they created a new one called demand gen that's specifically for generation demand. And so far, it's still early days, so I can't be like, oh, it's wonderful or it's not. But generally with the new toys that they want you to play with, if you do play with them, you go further with your ads because they're going to obviously weight it for the new toys so that people feel like they're getting more out of it.
Yeah.
So also, we've got a lot of stuff that's been rolling out with LinkedIn, weirdly. I know it's been a minute since like I've advertised on LinkedIn, but they've been rolling out like a new conversions API to help you with better attribution. They've got email metrics that came out. I think there's so for anyone that publishes newsletter, because there's like a big component of like newsletters inside of it.
Do you think LinkedIn is still an untapped resource that is underused, that people could find value in advertising?
See, that's the thing. Now that they're putting more effort behind the advertising, I feel like it could, but it's been 8 years since I did any ads on LinkedIn, and let's just say that the targeting was meager, is the best way I could describe it. It was very wanting. But and Aura is asking, how did I get 300% more subscribers? I don't know that exact number, but it was a huge increase. I'll follow up with it. And it was through, if you go into your studio.youtube.com and you go down to your videos, it'll say like lives, videos, shorts. And then the very last one on that is called promotions. And if you connect it to an ads account, you can then actually promote it from within your YouTube studio. And parents also say, yes, I'm going to guess that's to it being a viable channel. See, LinkedIn's always gotten away with their organic being really good because they don't have the incentive to monetize every aspect of it like Facebook does, because it's actually like it works for them to have organic grow really well, because that means more people go into the platform, which means that there's more data for them to then send to the sales navigator people who are recruiters, right? Because you can find out all this information because people are going to be writing about what they do. And so you can get a lot more info. And so it becomes more valuable to the recruiters because they have more insights as to for the people. So it always had like actually a pretty positive incentive for them to do well. But I know that there's only going to be so many recruiters, right? And so as you're going to have to look for new growth, it was inevitable they were going to start doing some sort of paid components to it as well. I do know that they have, so Aura's saying LinkedIn advertising for newsletters sounds interesting. Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem that I haven't really been a part of. I've read about it, but there's a whole, you can almost Patreon, you can have your articles behind a paywall. So then people pay you as well, and then they take a small percentage. So I know that there's stuff like that they're doing as well.
And speaking of that, so that reminds me, Substack seems to be gaining traction, especially because of everything going on in the social world, people leaving X and leaving other platforms. Meta, Substack is one of those places I'm seeing a lot of people flock to, and it does, I don't know a ton about Substack, but it sounds a lot like you could put out content, newsletters, and things that people actually subscribe to and pay for what you're producing.
Yeah, Substack was actually the one I was thinking of. Patreon is more for podcasts, is the bigger one on there. But Substack was started in 2015, and it was what you said. It was mostly their first round of people that they went after were journalists that generally had a pretty big audience. Basically, were limited by like editors and newsrooms. Their first person is, I'm going to blank on his name. Damn it. His name's Matt, but he was a big journalist, and and so that was their big one. Because they actually did reach out to him personally to get him on board. And so that was a big one. That there's a lot of Glenn Greenwald's another one. He was the guy that did the wiki stuff with Edward Snowden. So that kind of people that are independent journalists that had an audience, that's who they went after at the start. But yeah, it's definitely grown to other people as well.
Did you have any other SEO related, or can we move on should we move on to more of the social stuff?
I was just going so I had one with it that SEO and kind of ads is Google is rolling out the AI asset generation. And that's also going to include them being able to generate lifestyle imagery. So it's like your product in the context of somebody using it kind of thing. I'm always a little nervous about AI asset generation because I had a client that we accidentally had it turned on because it was back in the day where they're like, is it going to be on automatically or not? And it wound up creating headlines about like Disney with like that we were working with Disney, and there was some event people that put on like imagery, but I was like, that feels like very risky for my client that we would get sued, because I certainly would not have put Disney into one of my headlines, mostly because I would have been flagged.
That's interesting. And they put it right in the graphic as some type of a headline within the graphic.
No, it was a headline, like the actual written component, written headline. But you know how there's the headlines and descriptions? They had written headlines.
And that was automatically generated by.
Yeah, of course you can do stuff like brand exclusion, but I feel like I shouldn't need to tell you not to put Disney into it.
It should automatically know what is copyrighted or not allowed to have in there.
Yeah, exactly. And so that always made me a little nervous about doing it.
I'm sure first gen, the first release of whatever that feature is, it's going to be played with, because that sounds pretty obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm always a little wary of those tools because I had a pretty bad experience. So I'm just more of I'd like to be in control of this. I don't like leaving it up to the black box to like just output like, oh, you got a bunch of conversions. I'm like, no, I want to know what converted. I'd like to know what's going on with it. So it always makes me wary before I jump in with a new tool like that.
Moving on to some of Rena's stuff for social, I'm seeing here there's this TikTok doomsday clock, which is basically the countdown of the 75-day extension that the US gave the app to continue running. We're halfway through that, and no specific resolutions have come up.
No, as far as I know, one thing to also bear in mind with the TikTok is the number one investor in TikTok is actually in Trump's cabinet. So there's a strong likelihood it's going to get saved in some capacity because the guy's in the whole like 75 million, some crazy amount of money that he's invested with them. So I'm going to assume that there's going to be some sort of solution or that guy's not going to lose his shirt.
And despite that, Serena's mentioned advertising on the platform. People are going all in. Ad spend is up 10% since it's returned. Something about video ad revenue surged almost 300% between April and January of 2025. Yeah, interesting new stuff.
Yeah, who knows how it's all going to shake out, especially as a lot of these other platforms are still floundering. Like Facebook is having a lot of issues right now. Still, TikTok is the only one that's managed to still have a lot more growth in the field, despite everything that's going on with them politically. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, like how it all shakes out. Because it's going to have some sort of resolution. It's just, what does that look like? Maybe a continuous just extension of the deadline. But I know
one of our final points here was your comment going to be still TikTok or?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that as well that the ads. Yeah, you talked about the ad spend has gone up like through the roof, and I know that's a big one that's happened because Shopify really pushing their integration with TikTok, so that you could have writing your ads direct links to a Shopify store. And I think they even have the in-app purchase that was one that didn't exist up until a little while ago. Because in China, the Chinese version actually you can full check out everything inside of it. And so people will be like showing products, and then you can just click at the bottom corner and then just buy the product directly on the app itself. You don't even have to go to a Shopify or anything.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's all regulated by your Shopify. So it has an integration. So you never actually leave the TikTok app, but the order gets sent over to your Shopify store, and then you get a little notification and tells you it came from TikTok. Yeah. Do we really want to cover the last point?
Not really, but it's concerning.
Yeah. It's certainly one that yes, it's very concerning, but it's Meta and X are allowing add things from a far right perspective is what I'm going to say. So I don't trigger any sort of any specific words that people, but yeah, let's just say that it's about World War II enthusiasts or the people that you can advertise to about. I don't want to even really read out the top. I just notify people that this is a concerning because they had backed down previously. Like they had Facebook specifically had targeting that you could have that in the past. And this is brought to light that very far content could be targeted and people that had those beliefs could also get targeted. And so I know that they had backed down from it before. So this is concerning that they're allowing it as well.
Well, I would say extremist.
Yeah.
Ads for extremist views.
And ideology and like,
For one thing, you can see the writing on the wall of other advertising being allowed on the platforms for the other extremist views.
yeah, I'm going to, my guess, there's probably going to be like, someone's probably going to sue them over this because it feels like you're making a decision that would, I just feel like this is going to make them liable in some capacity if you're enabling people to push content that seeks to harm people. That feels like there's a libel case in there because like the U.S. is the land of free speech, but there are some hard limits and threatening people is definitely one of them. So my guess is that this is going to wind up in lawsuits. Just call it a hunch. But that actually brings us up to time. And I just want to say it was great. I know that we've had it's been a heck of a 2025 so far with just a lot of stuff going on personally. So I think it was good chatting with you, Greg.
Yeah, and just a note on our topic for next week, we hope that Rena's better and Pip is back and they're able to do the live, but they are scheduled to do a how to create social media calendar that works for you. If you can next week, tune in for that.
Yeah. Oh, and it was Matt Taibbi was the person I was thinking of as the journalist that was the first Substack guy. Yes, and bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.